We were sent to reclaim a city. Instead, we found its grave. There are places that hum with waiting, and this one screamed in the silence. The altar was first a decade of dust and old blood. Someone had arranged the pieces like an offering, a chalice tarnished and dry, a deck of tarot cards laid out with too much precision to be careless, still holding a reading we weren't meant to interrupt. And in the center of it all, ash. Not burnt paper, not incense. The kind of ash that Kindred leave behind. Someone stood there once, and now they don't. The air around it smelled of something sour and endless, like a mouth still open in the moment of death. That's when we found the poem. The parchment left on the altar, half buried in soot, every stanza carved like it had been bled out of someone. A hymn, maybe, a warning, perhaps. A love letter to something that should never be loved. In the shadows deep where madness reigns, the Pale King lurks in eldritch chains. The Pale King. I'd heard the phrase before, whispers, footnotes, the kind of thing the pyramid redacted before you could even finish reading. But here, in the heart of Prince Benedict's ruin estate, it wasn't theoretical anymore. Someone summoned him. And the poem, it wasn't random. It read like a confession, a prayer, maybe declaration, signed with only one name. Here, however, I'll call this person the Archivist. I didn't know him then, not by voice, not by memory, not by name. But even in this moment, surrounded by this ruin, I could feel his shape behind the words. Whoever he was, he had called something. And the Pale King had come. In Benedict's office, the past hadn't been cleaned up. It was left there, scattered across the floor like entrails, still warm in the psychic sense. Letters unopened, others torn with frantic fingers, their ink smeared, their margins crowded with second thoughts. Names leapt from pages. Kindred, we assumed, were lost or fled or hiding. But they had written. They had begged for aid, for blood, for someone to listen before a city came apart like wet paper in a storm. Half the Tremere were dead. The reasons we found were complicated. Guests from Mexico. Or the Archivist himself? The crooked man's name was scratched in margins, promises inked like unfamiliar hands, oaths renegotiated with the kind of blood that never truly dies. Even Justicars weren't clean. Their names sealed letters like wax over a wound no one intended to stitch. We found SI corpses in side rooms, slumped like broken mannequins in cheap suits. We found Dr. Netchurch's notes half buried in the dust, written in 3 different hands like a conversation between ghosts. We found mention of the butcher's chariot. A phrase, a project, maybe a machine, something built to hollow the skull and lace it with obedience, holes punched like keys into the seat of the soul. But none of it felt as monstrous as the distrust. It lived in the letters, in the ink. It lived in the way whole clans stopped replying before the blood even dried. This wasn't a war. It was a cannibalism of purpose, a failure so deliberate it had teeth. Prince Benedict's domain didn't collapse. It was dismantled, oath by oath, promise by promise, clan by clan, until all that remained was a gilded ruin and a script for us to follow. The night we arrived, we signed our names like good little inheritors. We smiled for the cameras, we took the oaths, and none of us said it out loud. But we all knew we hadn't come to build something new or even rebuild something old. We had been sent to dig a grave,